You're gonna read a story?
I know.
So,
That's what we're here for.
I have
Thanks,
some,
Jane, very helpful what you shared. Thank you.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with us this evening we have Alex Goldstein, who is the co-owner of GV Property Management. Alex and I know each other for some years now. About just over
22?
22 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. We met probably within the first month of me moving to Canada, in grade 10 at Northview,
Yeah.
Bathurst and Finch. Alex, maybe you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your journey
Sure.
up until today, and keeping in mind the focus around property management, but all the experience that you have leading up to today really can help us dive into specific questions.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me. I really enjoyed these real estate deal sessions. I've spoken several times on different things, and always good to be here. So I'm on my 4th property now. I don't really invest anymore because I just need to dedicate time and resources to this growing business, which is a property management firm. I started with the one property that I bought a long time ago up in Barrie. I still lived on rent in Toronto. I bought the second one. Back then you could, put $15,000 in, and then you have a down payment for a property. That was back in 2015. Then in 2016 it got a little bit more difficult. And then we bought our 3rd property in 2020, and then our 4th, and I think for now the final one in 2022, which is outside of the country, the 4th one. But I come from a facilities management background, so I come from managing large industrial and commercial facilities. And while managing industrial and commercial facilities has its own way about it, very structured, very policy, procedural oriented, compliance, rational. You deal with a lot of rational people that know the business, most of them, right, and so forth. Where you have residential property management, it gets a little bit chaotic, like a lot more chaotic, and it gets very unpredictable and so forth. And unfortunately, it is the investors or the owners that are left to deal with really what is a landscape that is taken from the commercial setting, and now you have it in the residential. It's the same sort of laws, the same structure, sort of taken from commercial, applied to residential. Now it is expected that owners know those laws in the same way as if they would have as if we would have a commercial setting, if they have people working for them and reporting with them and so forth. And obviously that doesn't happen. A lot of it doesn't happen. It's just one owner, a couple of properties, and all of it is resting on their shoulders. So how are they going to deal with it, right? Once the math makes sense, once the planning makes sense, right? You're left to deal with your property and roof issues, mold issues, tenant payment issues, bylaw zoning, and all those issues. So how are you going to do that on your own? If you don't come from a commercial background, if you don't know the laws, and don't have time to know the laws because you're out there making money, putting in for new properties. So we kind of looked at it, and I was trying, so I was managing my properties on my own. I figured, you know what, this is a problem. Like, I know kind of what I'm doing here, but I know that my neighbor doesn't, and that's why he keep asking me for questions. So then we started looking at it like, okay, so why don't we build this out and cater to residents, cater to residential landlords. So we started doing that, and we started doing it for friends, then we just started focusing, just finding tenants, leasing, and so forth. And we started getting into, okay, so now more inquiries are coming in, now we're getting into these multi-units and so forth. And we started treating it more seriously to the point where, okay, so now we have people working for us, now we have metrics, now that we have commercial properties, we have leasing and real estate agents working for us, maintenance folks, and we have a good portfolio. Last year was a phenomenal year. We experienced a 200% growth in our portfolio across all vectors or verticals, sorry. And we just find it to be very, like a valuable service that we provide. We also learned something this year, that property management is not for every landlord. Unfortunately, there are landlords that do not understand the purpose of property management, and they believe that we can just take the tenant out back and stick him. And basically, like, we cannot do that if they don't pay rent. There are laws and regulations that we have to follow. So we had to do the unfortunate of letting clients go, because that just, we cannot do some things, right?
So you're not the enforcer?
We are not an enforcer in the sense that we do not exact our own method of dealing punitively with tenants. We are following the Ontario Residential Tenancies Act, which we all know is, well, the act itself is okay. It's the landlord and tenant board that is really, either it is underutilized or under-resourced, or something is going on there where neither the landlords nor the tenants are really getting the speedy access to justice and access to the services that they require in order to manage really terrible situations. We see situations in both ends, right? We see it as, I'll say, bad landlords, there's bad tenants, it's both. And we're trying to kind of work with landlords, work with tenants to make sure that these relationships are smooth. I guess one thing is in terms of metrics. In the 6 years that we have been operating, so eight years now actually, we've collected 100% rent from our tenants for our landlords through the pandemic, through all that stuff. Yes, there was a lot of tough times, but ultimately they're all paid up. So we're very happy with that. We obviously treat that metric very carefully, because any day, even after this, I can say, oh, sorry, we can't pay. Right, so we're very careful with that, but we kind of work hard to make sure that the money keeps flowing. So,
Great.
yeah.
What would you say is something that you noticed when, let's say, you were helping one investor with their first property, then they got a second property, third property, fourth property? Was there something that you noticed they started doing differently in terms of how they approached their portfolio, in terms of when they decided to use a property management firm, and how they restructured their decision-making processes in collaboration with a property management firm? Are there any thoughts you have on that?
Yeah, so we get landlords or owners at various stages of their investment career. We have people that are starting with us that are brand new, they just got their first property, they don't know what they're doing, but they know that they don't know what they're doing. They're coming and seeking help, and they have either themselves or their family or whoever put them out to become an investor has imparted upon them that they must seek help immediately, because in Canada, unlike in other jurisdictions, there are some things you just cannot do, right? There's some things you're just not allowed to do as you would in other countries, right? The whole take them out back, the whole law, right? All of that stuff, you can't do that. So they're very quick to understand that, and that is the most successful clients that we have, because we are there to basically make sure that their property delivers, right? That they delivers long term, right? We're not in for, I'll hold you up for 3 months and then, right? We're there for years and years and decades, right? And so those are the investors that really make good. When they have their property organized and managed, they can really clear their minds and move on to the next thing that what they want to do. But unfortunately, we get investors who are like at a really, really terrible state where they are owed, anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000. They haven't even started the process of eviction, right? We have tenants or landlords who have so many issues in their house that there needs to be like a capital budget for that to renovate, right? You have to take out sections of the house because all kinds of things have gone in, and it's not like a paint job kind of thing. And it's just the kind of bad news that look, you need to have, it's more like you need to get ready for a surgery here, where you need to be cutting out pieces of this house, and and unfortunately for them, those are also the people that are really overstretched for many reasons, right? Either because of that cash flow is not coming in, or because their personal lives are not, they're going through something, so they don't have a lot of cash. And now we're telling them, listen, you got to get 25, 30K here to put down just to get this problem, just so I can safely, legally make it happen for you. So all walks of life, right? We definitely encourage, if you have your if you're not planning to live in the property, and if you're planning to have more than one, then you should really consider a property manager who's going to look after this, really. Yeah.
Any questions? Has anyone used the property management firm in the past? Do you have any specific questions that come to mind when you're thinking about whether it makes sense to use a property management firm or do it yourself?
How do you manage the actual day-to-day renovation? Is that through actually staff, or do you subcontract, or how does that whole structure work for you guys?
So it depends on the size and scope of what's happening. If it's a tear down and like a rebuild, that's not really us. It's a construction company, and they have their own foreman and all that. If it's a rental, you need to, like what we've done at Scarborough, the basement and all that needed to be gone because the concrete padding wasn't thick enough, so it was all basically falling apart and crumbling. There would be a member of our team that would be providing supervision over that. And it would be either our contractors or our handy people, right, whoever is suitable to do the job, depending on what the job is. But we would definitely provide supervision.
And they're generally your people, or people that you at least supervise?
So the supervisors, yes, they're ours. They are property managers, right? They would be the ones out there. But again, it depends on the scope of this. If you have brigades of people coming in, then it would be probably an additional resource that would have to cost and so forth.
So, would you recommend to work with a management company starting from when you have your second rental property? Like, people can still manage one, let's say, so they don't get stuck with only that one. So in terms of spelling and not being frustrated because of the things going on in the first property. So you will say in the second one, try to make sure of working with a property.
I think it depends on what your sort of background and what else you do in life that would influence that decision. Because yes, you could in theory manage your first property. However, this is your first property, you haven't managed tenants, you don't have enough of an in-depth knowledge about how buildings work, HVAC, plumbing, right, electric, all this other stuff. And if you are starting to have issues that you need to respond to, and ultimately you want to think about this is your weekends and it's your evenings, and it might start wearing you down. So that wearing you down might ultimately discourage you from even going out for your second property and third property. It's like, I don't want to deal with this. This is nonsense. Like, the tenants are bothering me, right, and stuff like that. So, however, if you're retired, or you have you're just not full time, whatever else you do, if you have time, then you probably could, because it's like a part-time job for you going to be, especially at your first property, where as a first-time owner, it is expected that you probably will make mistakes in your communication with your tenants, in your taking care of the home, the right thing to do for the home, right, so forth. The question is how much tolerance you have for making those mistakes, how much time you have to be making those mistakes. Or should you just, okay, here's where I live, I'll manage where I live. Here's my one property, management. Second property, management, and so forth. Because if you're starting to okay, I'm going to try this one myself, sure, you could, and maybe you'll do well, and hopefully you will do well. But in the case that you want, it's going to impact your mindset on whether you want to continue doing this.
Right. Yeah, because I heard a lot from like, they don't pass farther than the second or third property.
Yeah.
Because of those reasons, they just. think
Because of the risk,
it's-
right? Because of the risk. So, the other thing is when you're working with a property manager, not just us, but any other one, a qualified property management could work with you to figure out, just like James there said, are you ready for your second property? Not only from a mortgage and financing perspective, are you actually ready to do it? Right? If you're buying a property, if you live in Mississauga, you have your place in Mississauga, and then you have your property in Brampton and stuff like that. Are you actually going to go